Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma 231 here, back in day with a little bit of a different video on the channel and a bit of a different one going forward in general because of course, as you guys saw in the title of this video and thumbnail and all of the places I put this up online, today we're going to be talking about chapter number 176 of Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister. Of course, this is a harem manga that runs in Kodansha's weekly shonen magazine, I think is what it's called. Yes, I have never talked about a weekly shonen magazine manga here on this channel before. Of course, I've talked about a few like animated series, like I've always wanted to talk about Shangri-La Frontier, which is a series that runs in the Kodansha Weekly Shonen Magazine. And of course, I've talked about the Go-Go Loser Ranger anime before, which I still need to finish off that series, but I guess adding the new series of talking about this manga is not going to be doing very well, but pretty much, if you guys don't know, the Tying the Knot of an Amagami Sister anime debuted in, oh gosh, was it fall of 2024, if I'm not mistaken? And I didn't start watching it until probably earlier this year in 2025. It was probably like January, if I'm not mistaken, or may even have been a little bit lower. I watched the dub anime. I don't know why I even thought about watching it. I don't even know how I heard about it before this point. But I watched it and I said, wow, I'm a guy, I think harem manga are pretty fun, and I enjoyed the anime a very good bit, and I just really enjoyed it all the way going through, and eventually I was like, hey, you know what, I sort of want to know how this series sort of goes on from here, all the hijinks go on, because of course the anime covers up to like chapter number 85 or something, and like, hey, it's like only 100 more chapters to get to where the manga currently is, so I'm like, hey, let me go sit down and easily do that. I started over the manga from the beginning, and over the course of probably 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, I slowly just built my way up, all the way up to the point where, hey, I am currently caught up with the manga. And you guys may be sitting here thinking like, oh, hey, Corbin, this is a little weird. By the time you're posting this video, chapter number 180 has already come out. And to that, I say, yes, I understand, but of course the current part where we are in the manga is like, hey, we are entering the final arc of Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister, and I was honestly very much on the fence to where I was like, hey, do I want to actually cover this manga? But after reading the Yuna story arc, of course, the, oh gosh, what was it called? The looking through your dreams in a mirror arc or whatever it was, around the chapter like number 160, like 155, 160 mark is when it began, somewhere around there, and that arc emotionally hurt me, and I say hurt in the best way possible. It was one of the best, most emotionally charged pieces of fiction I've read in a long time. And of course, some of the arcs that came before that I wasn't really the biggest fan of. I honestly thought about doing a proper video talking about all of my thoughts on the series before I get started on chapter reviews, but I was like, hey, I'm already going to be a good amount of chapters behind, so let's just why not just go and hop into it, and like, hey, if people really care about my thoughts on this series, they will probably watch from this video no matter what. So really, that's just where I sort of decided with that. And of course, the point where we are now is it was announced like, hey, Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister is going to be entering its final arc. And in harem manga, I honestly don't think this is going to be longer than like 30 chapters or anything crazy like that. But still, if it's a series that I very much enjoy, then why not talk about it here on the YouTube channel? That's sort of like how it's been. Like, hey, I talked about Oshinoko, I'm currently talking about Kagurabachi, I talked about World Trigger, I talked about Navigatoria, and I really think, are those the 4 manga? Oh, I'm also covering Marching Crown currently. Granted, like Oshinoko and Kagurabachi and World Trigger are all definitely passion projects. Like, I love these series. Navigatoria is like, hey, I love this series and I want more people to see it. And Marching Crown is more of that situation of like, hey, Asakasa, the guy who wrote Oshinoko, is working on this series, and I find it very interesting where he's going to be going from here. So I'm sort of also covering that series no matter what. And hey, I think Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister is a fun one to sort of throw there onto the pile. Of course, I guess a few other like administrative things before we really hop into a chapter. I am using the K-Manga web browser, which, gosh, I don't like this. I had to like pretty much link my phone account to be able to get all the points, and they didn't make that easy, and it's just a big mess. Kodansha, get a better web manga reader. I still thank you for translating these chapters, even though you don't translate Sentai Dai Shikaku or Go-Go Loser Ranger or Ranger Redirect, however people call that series. You got a few problems there, but at the end of the day, it sort of is what it is there. But yeah, I hope you guys are just ready to sit down here with me, and we can all talk about Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister. Of course, like I mentioned, this is chapter number 176, and this chapter is titled, sorry, let me scroll all the way to the end of the chapter. It is 176 Not Tying the Skies Together, beginning. Of course, the beginning of a brand new arc in this series. So, of course, we start off this chapter with sort of note like, hey, it is currently mid-January, and the day before the Kyoto University entrance exam. Of course, what Uryu has been building up to this entire series so far, right? As, of course, we see these three shrine maidens, Yae, Yuna, and Asahi Amagami, all pretty much in their Shinto priestess clothings, bowing in front of a shrine, and we pretty much see that they have, like, all of their get-up on. They're, like, holding the whatever you call those things. I don't know enough about Shinto mythology besides from what I've read in this series to really understand what's going on here. But we pretty much just see the three girls all sort of doing this together, right? We see that they pretty much take off all of their, like, heavy dresses and like the head pieces they are wearing, and they're pretty much all walking back to some part of the shrine, as Yuna pretty much just says like, hey, I wonder if Uryu will be coming home, or if we won't see him till after his exam, pretty much, right? And Asahi just is like, hey, well, I really just hope he is staying healthy, and like, hey, how has he been looking at school, Yuna? And Yuna just says like, I mean, I guess he's looking normal enough, like, I don't know how to really judge all of that, right? But Yae just says like, hey, as long as he's pretty much staying healthy and doing all of that various stuff, like, hey, as long as he's keeping his focus on his entrance exams, I'm really just all for him doing that, pretty much, right? And Asahi pretty much just says the same thing of like, yeah, but if he was here with us, we'd be making too much of a fuss about every little thing, and he just simply wouldn't have time to study, right? As Yuna just says like, hey, well, with all of that in mind, the best thing we can do for him right now is just keep praying for his success. As we pretty much just see that she goes and like puts her hands together to like start praying to all of the gods, pretty much like, hey, please let Uryu pass. And of course, all three of the girls are just freaking out like, but will he really be okay? Like, what if we don't pray enough and like he trips up and tumbles down the stairs on the way to the test site? What if he busts his head open, right? We see that Yae says that. Asahi sort of brings into the idea of like, yeah, and what if he has like a banana for breakfast and like throws the peel on the ground and slips on it, right? And of course, Yuna being the most god-fearing one here just says like, oh god, please grant him protection. And I just love how all three of the girls are just like totally freaking out over this, and hey, it really makes sense for their character. They just want to see Uryu succeed in the best way that he can, right? But of course, mentioning Uryu, he then sort of just like pops in, just says like, guys, you all are just like way too superstitious about bad luck, but hey, I guess it just comes with being a Miko or a Shrine main. I guess just that's how it sort of is, right? And of course, all three of the girls are just like, Uryu, you're here! And I just love the jokes and, of course, how they all say it. As, of course, Yae says, like, oh, Uryu-kun, right? Yuna says, Uryu. And, of course, who's her name? Asahi just says, like, Uryu-san. Of course, those specific honorifics they should be giving him for his age, pretty much, right? And all the girls are just like, oh, what's wrong? You didn't say you were coming over to the shrine right now. And Asahi's just like, hey, we all thought you weren't coming back until after the exam, right? And Uryu sort of just like walks up. He's got his little bit of a trench coat on. As he just says like, hey, isn't it obvious? I wanted to see the three of you in person before I took the tests, right? And all of the girls are just looking very happy hearing this, pretty much, right? As Uryu just says like, hey, thanks, guys, for praying for me. I'll do my best tomorrow. As we just see all of the girls have this really happy smile on their face, and they're all just like, yeah, go get him, Uryu, right? As we then see, it's the next morning. It's time for the Kyoto University entrance exam, as we see that, hey, Uryu is walking to the university while all of the various birds are chirping. And of course, he runs into Shirahi on the way there. Of course, it makes sense. That's her whole thing. Is like, hey, she's going to be taking tests with Uryu. She's legitimately pretty much his rival, all things considered. So she's pretty much like, hey, Uryu, like, how are you feeling? And Uryu just says like, hey, well, honestly, I'd say I'm feeling better than ever, pretty much, right? As we see the two of them are just walking towards the school. As we get a little bit of narration from Uryu's perspective, as he just says like, hey, it's only been a short time, but it really feels like forever. Thinking back, I can't believe how much has happened in the past year. Right when I first came to the shrine, I was hit with having to marry someone and just inherit the place, and even now it sounds so ridiculous when I stop to think about it. And then there's all of those prophetic dreams I started having, and I mean, I visited the past, I got stuck in a time loop, and I even swapped bodies with somebody along with going to a parallel universe. Even now, it all sounds incomprehensible when I stop to think about it. Plus, there's the fact that those three sisters aren't related by blood. They each have their other names, and they each come from other families. But the more I think about it, the more bizarre my life seems to have been. As he just thinks like, hey, but all that said, I love our life together. As all of this narration comes in the form of two-page spreads, as we get something that Tiny Off and Amagami Sister does extremely well, as we just see like, hey, of course, the chords of fate pretty much going through, looping around all of these pages, connecting all of these various events together. Of course, we see like the first events of that first chapter, and like, hey, Uryu has to marry one of the girls here pretty much. And also, just looking at all of the major events that have happened to him since then. Of course, we look at all of the stuff at the Moonlight Shrine, of course, where Yomiko is the head there. All the events that happened at that shrine, of course. And then, hey, everything that happened with the Yae arc, of course, like, hey, going back in time and pretty much understanding his relationship with Yae. Hey, during the Tanabata Festival, him and Asahi got stuck in a time loop. And of course, him and Yuna swapped bodies whenever it came to all of their various play stuff that they had to do, right? And all of it was done by that trickster god. And of course, the biggest thing of, hey, he got transported to an alternate reality with Shirahi and learned about, like, hey, tying the knot and all of that various stuff, right? And of course, all the other events of these second major arcs for all of the characters, of course, like, hey, Yuna going back, or not Yuna, Yae going back to her house and all of her family stuff that happened there. The absolute travesty of an Asahi arc where, like, hey, gosh, I need to rant about this real quick. I've not had a chance to talk about it yet, so it's like, I need to get it off my chest. But the Asahi arc was simply terrible. Like, hey, my father, who's chasing after my mother, is coming in contact with me again. Maybe he loves me. Oh no, but he shouldn't though. Oh hey, my mother makes these shoes. Hey, it's my shoes, these Cinderella shoes. Gosh, it was such a stupid arc. That was a terrible 21 chapters. I'm gonna be real with you right there, right? But of course, all the events there that happened in Asahi's arc, and of course, the whole thing of like, hey, Yuna was able to swap herself with like, hey, herself from 10 years ago and pretty much go back into the past while her younger self came into the future. And sort of all of the things that went around there, of course, where she learned her true name and all of that various stuff, right? And eventually just like seeing all of those girls smile, and Uryu just thinks like, man, this is just so awesome. As of course, the second two-page spread is him just thinking back on all of the times that he has had as part of the Amagami household. Of course, like, hey, all of them sitting around the dinner table eating food together, right? All of them getting their fortunes told at the beginning of the year. Just all of them hanging out together. And of course, whole sparkler contests they had with each other, and all of them just holding their hands together. It's just a really, really nice moment. What else can I say, right? As you just see Uryu walking towards the school building, like he's just got this really determined look on his face, right? As we then see just like, hey, he's sitting down, taking the exam, going through all of this stuff, like scrawling out on a piece of paper, and just doing his best. As eventually, he just starts to think again, like after the whole thing of like, hey, but all that said, I love our life together. He just thinks like, hey, and I'll love what the future holds for us too. As we also just get a look at, of course, the trickster god who, at least this is a theory I have. I've not really been theory crafting and seeing what other people think about this series. The trickster god, who is very obviously the Amagami mother. I forget her name. I think it was her name. Chiharu? I think that's what her name is. Of course, we see the trickster god pretty much sitting on top of one of the torii gates at the Amagami shrine. Of course, the fox mask on and all of the hair blowing back in the wind, pretty much, right? And like, hey, I'm pretty sure this is Chiharu and just like she's ascended to godhood or something. Of course, this is something that this final arc better explain to us because like the reason I honestly jived for this series so much was like we were able to have these emotional moments tied to the trickster god. And one of my favorite parts of this series was genuinely whenever like, hey, there's all this stuff with the trickster god going on. It's like, hey, Uryu sort of like comes to the realization like after the whole Shirahi's mirage stuff and like all of that various stuff like, hey, this god exists, and she is just completely messing with me and all of the other characters here. I really liked that, and I thought it was really, really funny, right? But hey, it's at this point in the chapter where we suddenly cut 2 months into the future. As we see, it is now mid-March, and the announcement of the university entrance exam results are now out. As of course, we see that Uryu and of course Shirahi are going to the university. They have the little paper slip in her hand, and they're seeing if they got into the university or not, right? As we also cut over to the Amagami Shrine, where of course the 3 girls are sort of all talking with each other, right? As of course we pretty much just see that Yuna's like, man, look at that. The day is finally here. And Yahe's like, yeah, my heart is just like racing thinking about it. Like, honestly, like, no kidding. Like, it's just crazy, right? As Yuna just is like, hey, but no matter the outcome, we just have to accept whatever's going to happen, right? As we also just look and see that Uryu's exam number, or his ID number, was 0003. Number 3, that's a pretty good exam number to have, all things considered, right? Like, hey, you get your test early, all of that various stuff, right? As he pretty much just looks and sees that, yes, he passed, and he is in the program. As we see that, of course, Shirahi staying beside him, and she sort of, like, holds out a hand to pretty much clap, like, hey, congratulations, as they both give each other a high five, just like, hey, look at that. And Uryu's just like, hey, congratulations on passing, right? And she's like, hey, congrats to you too, Uryu, right? And it's like, hey, they both passed together. It's some pretty big deal stuff right there, right? But Uryu just is like, hey, of course, this exam was just a checkpoint on our way. And of course, these results were like never not out of the question. Like, we were always going to pass pretty much, right? And Shirahi just is like, hey, Uryu, you really just need to stop like trying to play it cool constantly. Like, hey, you're allowed to be happy for yourself, don't you know? And she says like, hey, or is that your way of saying that the sister is what's actually on your mind these days and all this other various stuff? As you pretty much see that Uryu just sort of is like a little taken aback by this and just like almost stares into his exam or his like paper sheet there and just like honestly isn't paying attention, right? But Uryu, or not Uryu, Shirahi then just sort of looks over and just says like, hey Uryu, I love you. And Uryu is very sort of like taken aback by this as he just says like, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, but I can't reciprocate, Shirahi, right? And she's just like, oh man, that was a really quick rejection you just gave me, right? She's like, hey, you know, the last time I told you, you really went out of your way to like be all sensitive about my feelings and all that various mess there, right? And he's just like, hey, I'm really sorry for hurting you. And she's like, hey, don't worry, Uryu. This way actually feels a whole lot better, right? And she just says like, hey, I honestly just wanted to say the words here in this world too. As he's like, oh, Shirahi. As we then just see that she moves behind Uryu and sort of like just puts her 2 hands on the back of his and sort of shoves him forward. As she just says like, hey, Uryu, all right, now it's your turn. As he's like, yeah, you're right. Here goes nothing, right? And of course, this is the end of the moment we see here. As we just see the cherry blossoms falling from all of the various trees. Of course, like, hey, it's the proper time here in the moment. As we just see that Uryu is getting ready to walk back to the Amagami Shrine, as he's just thinking like, hey, at some point I got thinking, I wouldn't mind if our life at the shrine stayed as is forever. But we all knew that one day I'd need to make my decision. As we see that he walks back to the gates of the Amagami Shrine, and he approaches all of the girls who are in their traditional, like, Shinto wedding dresses, pretty much. As he just says like, hey, thank you all for waiting. As he just thinks to himself like, hey, and today is that day. As he just says like, hey, will you all listen to my answer? As of course, it's at this point where we get the chapter title, 176 Not Time Disguised Together. Beginning. As of course, we just see the moment here like, hey, all of the girls are standing in their dresses pretty much, like all of their Shinto things on. And like, hey, we see Yae, Yuna, and Asahi all here and like, hey, who is he gonna pick, right? I think this is as good as time to ever to say who my horse is in for in this race. Ever since the beginning of this series, I have been the Yuna fan because, like, hey, she likes cats, I like cats. And also, I just think that all of her arcs have really been the most emotionally, like, sort of raising, pretty much. If I have to say my least favorite, it's definitely Asahi. I think it's just playing out weird a little bit, if you know what I'm saying, right? But I have no problems with Yae at all. I mean, I really like all of these characters, pretty much. Besides Asahi, I'm not her biggest fan, but I really want Yuna to win out here at the end of the day. And, of course, this chapter is a little jarring because, like, of course, if you go through all the past chapters that we've had, of course, like, the 3 chapters ago is all like, hey, sort of tying some things up with any feelings that, of course, Miharu might have. It's a bit of a weird thing, of course, going through all those, like, hey, you're a foster parent, what are the feelings that are sort of left on the table there? It's a little bit of a weird thing, but sort of like those were getting fully explained. And of course, all the other feelings with Dr. Asahi were what the last 2 chapters were about. So moving into this chapter, it definitely feels like, hey, we're jumping so far forward in time. Like, hey, we like skipped 2 weeks to get to mid-January, of course, after the whole like beginning of the year, New Year stuff was going on. And hey, we even like cut forward to like, hey, Uryu is finally making his decision. Of course, I have the outlook of like, hey, I have read the next at least 3 chapters, being this is chapter number 176. Chapter number 180 released is on the day I'm recording this video, and I have not read it yet. I don't even know if it's out yet, all things considered, but hey, either way, chapter number 180 is out by time of this, but I've read the next 3 chapters, and I sort of know that this arc is sort of going back in time leading up to Uryu's decision, with this sort of being the catalyst of like, hey, we're going to this point, but let's go back in time and see how I ended up getting there, pretty much, right? Honestly, just a very solid chapter. At the first time I read it, I was a little peeved off, like, wow, we're just going to this decision already. But of course, I have a little bit more context now, but honestly, it's just really crazy to see that we get 3 2-page spreads in this chapter, really signifying like, hey, this series is nearly over. Of course, the one of like the cord running through all of the previous memories and sort of how it ties into Uryu's. We just see him walking forward, and of course, like, hey, all of the girls in their dresses, it is a harem manga. What else are you supposed to be doing here, right? But yeah, just a really good chapter. And hey, if you guys made it all the way to the end of this video, I thank you guys very much for watching it. I know it's a little bit weird, like, hey, we're getting here in a moment. Oh, I totally forgot to mention the biggest part of this chapter. If you guys remember in chapter 5 of Tying Knot for Amagami Sister, there's that whole idea of like, hey, all of Uryu's visions for the future. And I forgot that we got like 8 of them confirmed in this chapter. Of course, like Uryu getting into med school, of course, him going to marry all the girls, all the stuff of Shirahi and all that stuff. So that's something I wanted to quickly mention before I forgot about it, and I almost did. But going back to that previous topic now, again, thank you guys so very much for watching this video and tagging out for Amagami Sister. I don't know how well this video is going to do. Of course, it is just me talking about a harem manga, which arguably for a guy sitting in his college dorm is a little bit of a weird thing to do, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, arguably not as weird as talking about Kagurabachi. No, it arguably is much weirder than just sitting down and talking about Kagurabachi on a weekly basis, but it sort of is what it is there. There will be a playlist link down in the description box down below of this video, along on the end card. Like, hey, if you're watching this after the series has ended, granted, I don't know how long that's going to be, there's going to be the full playlist of all of the episodes there you can go check out, or just, like, bookmark it for, like, hey, I want to know what this guy thinks about this stupid series some more, and I'll have more videos on it in the future, pretty much. I know it's going to take a little while to get caught up on, of course, 5 chapters as more chapters are coming out, but I promise I will be caught up by the end of this series. That is the #1 goal right here, and I figured, like, hey, we're starting a brand new arc of tying this guys together. I may as well start it from there, pretty much, right? But yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Like, I cover other anime and manga stuff, so you guys want to go check that out, go check out the channel. But yeah, I'll catch you guys next time for chapter number, what, 177, I think? I need to... Again, this is the first video. I do not know what all the numbers are yet and how I'm going to be going really with this series, but let me just get to the beginning of the chapter. Yes, not number 176, this one was. So I'll see you guys next time for not number 177. Yeah, until then, I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you guys so very much for watching this brand new series on, hey, Amagami Sister, and I'll be catching you guys next time. Glowplasma 231, signing out.